Hello, my name is Lucas McCoy, and today I have prepared my final presentation on the Velociraptor mongoliensis species of dinosaur. This is for the class GEOS 216, and just off the top of my head, one of the reasons I chose this species is because I've seen it appear in several very popular movies over my life, so always a dinosaur that I've been able to point to and recognize. On to the next slide. We'll dive a little bit deeper into getting to know the Velociraptor. They do belong to the theropods, and they approximately had a height of about 1.5 to 3 feet, depending on the size and remains of the fossil that they found. Estimating the weight, no more than 40 pounds, maybe closer to 50 for some of the larger ones that have been found, but nothing, something within that range. And then finally, a length of 6 to 7 feet, which is actually pretty long, but that is also including their tail that not only they used as opposed to other maybe primates or something, they use their tail actually in combat and when hunting prey to keep them stable and to keep them upright so they could use their claws to pursue their prey. And then going into the environment that they lived in, scientists speculate that it was a very arid and dry climate that they lived in. Very few scattered bodies of water, which is where maybe some dinosaurs would gather to like some sort of watering hole. And many sandstone deposits were also found alongside Velociraptor fossils, which suggests that they probably had to weather a good amount of sandstorms over the course of their lives. Next, going into the diet. They were honestly, from what I could tell and from all the research that I've conducted, they weren't very picky eaters. They would pretty much eat anything that was smaller than them: herbivores, amphibians, mammals, reptiles, etc. Any little ground-dwelling animal would really be something that they would have their eyes on. And they were also known to hunt in packs, so perhaps if they were in a pack, they would maybe go after a larger target or a larger piece of prey, maybe a larger herbivore. And lastly, I just wanted to highlight the reproductive strategy that they used. Since female velociraptors actually have dual oviducts, they can only have 2 eggs at a time when they mate. So this kind of tends to go with the K strategy, as they're going to be providing more care for their young and not just having a large batch of eggs and hoping that X numbers survive. The Velociraptor was actually, going into a little bit of history here, discovered by Peter Kazin in 1923 on a museum expedition in northern Africa. And it is believed that the velociraptors lived during the late Cretaceous epoch, somewhere between 80 and 70 million years ago. And that kind of plays into our next topic, which was their extinction cause, which many believe is also the extinction cause of almost all other ground dinosaurs, non-avial dinosaurs, which was the asteroid strike at the end of the Cretaceous period, thus marking the end of the Cretaceous period and wiping out almost all life on Earth. And then if I could, for a brief moment, direct your attention to the bottom of the screen, where we have also a picture of a footprint fossil, where it kind of shows us 3 opposable phalanges that they had, and then also it does not show because it was a little elevated on the other side of the leg, similar to other birds today, the hind claw that they would use also when attacking prey. And then also right above my head here is, I just want to quickly highlight, the phylogenetic tree of the Velociraptor, which can be found right above me. And I just think it was very interesting that, they're much more closely related to, birds of that day or even birds of today than even, some of the more, as you can see over there, the armored dinosaurs and such stuff like that. So now going into the last slide of the presentation. Lastly, I'd like to identify why I chose, in a little more detail, this particular species of dinosaur. Well, apart from what I mentioned, seeing them in movies all the time, I think they actually have some of the coolest capabilities of any dinosaurs that lived among their certain time period. So first, as I've kind of talked about earlier, they had these large sickle-shaped claws that actually originally were supposed to be, the prevailing theory was that they were used to slice open the stomachs of their prey to get easier access into what they had just killed. But more recently, a new theory has come along, which goes into our next point, the raptor prey restraint tactic when hunting, which Actually, this theory pretty much says that the claws, both the large middle claw and the back claw, weren't really used for tearing open stomachs of their prey, but more actually in the actual process of killing their prey. So what the raptor prey restraint tactic means is that they would pretty much ambush their prey, most likely jumping on their back or some form of their side, depending on how big their prey was, and use those large, super sharp sickle-shaped claws to swiftly cut the throat or major vein of their prey, and then they would begin eating them while they were still alive and bleeding out, which is a very gruesome way to go, but that is now more believed that that is how raptors hunted their food, in that ambush, raptor prey restraint, slit the throat, and then just start going at it. And then a few more interesting facts before we close out here. Their top running speed is 40 miles per hour, which is pretty insane when you think about if these things were still alive today, what kind of damage they could do and what kind of predator they would still be. So I thought that was very interesting. And then contrary to popular belief, like when I say that I see these in movies or other types of media, they're not usually pictured as I have above right here, but that is actually what they probably looked like. And they had feathers covering their entire body, which kind of goes in line with what I said about them being closely related to birds, the theropod family. And they did have these feathers, but they did not have any flight capabilities whatsoever, which I also found interesting, which led me to do more research on, why would they have feathers if they couldn't fly? So I found that to be cool. And kind of just lastly, ending it up, they're known to be among the most intelligent of dinosaurs, and this is further supported by the fact that they had a very large brain relative to the size of their body, and because they were so smart, they were able to develop strategies such as hunting larger prey in packs to increase their success rate and stuff like that. Thank you for listening to this presentation, and I hope you learned something new.